196. That should be enough to fry an egg. Welcome to another Vagabond Garage, and welcome to my very humble office. In a recent video, I tried to pack my C4 Corvette with everything you need to be self-sustaining off-grid: camping supplies, tools, food, clothing, and even the kitchen sink. Now, the limitations of the Corvette became pretty clear almost immediately. More stuff fit in there than I thought, but I'm not able to take the roof off, and my roof is transparent, which means if you sit under it for long enough, you will get burned, even in the winter. Now, at the end of the video, I teased this, which my friend Evan quickly drew on his phone, saying you should put a roof rack on your car. Yeah, you have to drill a couple holes, but it's not my car. Holding a drill to your own car is a lot more difficult than telling someone else to do it. But nonetheless, I somehow am now sitting here thinking about drilling 4 holes in my C4 Corvette. And that image got me to thinking, so I started playing around in Photoshop, and today we're going to take a look at the options that I think are available for putting a roof box on a C4 Corvette. Now, as we get started here, I want to tell you I am not even good at Photoshop, let alone CAD or whatever, so this is not a super professional video. I just want to see what this looks like, so let's jump in here. So the very first thing that you're going to notice about this is there are no more red lines. That's because I'm a Photoshop wizard. I did not reverse image search this image. I, in fact, healed and otherwise patched all of those areas. I know, it's incredible. So with that out of the way, let's move on to what Evan suggested, which is drilling some holes in the car. The first thing he suggested was to mount front and rear mounts, something like that, so that we can mount something on them. Now, they might not be that height or that shape, but it's worth mentioning that underneath the fiberglass on the Corvette is metal. So the roll bar here has metal underneath it. The back here somewhere has metal. It has to, right? I think. That I really don't know, but I would assume that it does. So working off of those specs right there, the first thing I came up with is a bit much, really. The first render here, well, render that I came up with has a mountain bike and a massive box. Why put a tiny box on the roof? Why don't we go all the way? Put every single thing on the roof. Obviously not the tools and the heavy things, but anything soft, anything that might be used for camping would be on the roof. I also ride downhill mountain bikes. I have a 29er. And one of the limitations of taking the Corvette is you can't take a bike, which means you're not really getting a lot of exercise unless you find a gym or something. So I thought, yeah, let's bring a bike. Now, I don't think that bike is to scale. I think that even is a kid's bike because this mount is a Yakima front loader. I actually have one, and that is set to like a kid's height. It would be set up here. That red thing right there would be up here if this were a 29er. So I think actually the bike would come out to like here, which kind of defeats the purpose of taking the roof off, because if you've ever put a roof rack on your vehicle, you know that a dead zone forms underneath it in terms of air. It'll buff it, it'll kick air in all weird directions. It basically ruins having the sunroof open for a vast majority of cars. So I can only imagine taking the roof off with a box above it. It would cause a lot of buffeting. It would be really difficult to hear your passenger or even hear yourself think. God, I feel like a streamer with like 72 things going at the same time. So I think that's a bit much, right? That's a bit extra. The second option I had was a little more conservative. You still got a pretty good sized box on there, but it's certainly not like the largest box they offer. Now, this is not to scale from a Yakima box. This is just something I scaled the box down using Transform, and this is what we get. But something along these lines that didn't really overhang the back of the car, didn't overhang the entire roof, I think would be nice. But then we start to introduce another problem. See, the smaller the box gets, the less room you have to open the hatch. And by this point, first of all, I think it's looking a little silly. Does it? Leave a comment. Does it look silly to have a tiny box on there? I think it looked cooler with a larger one, but this is more along the lines of what I think I actually need. You could accommodate one person more than good. More than good? What is grammar? One person could easily fit everything they need in this box and probably have room to spare. But we start arriving at a problem at this point because we're supposed to be taking the roof off. And in order to take the roof off a Corvette, you have to open the hatch. You like that? Now, obviously, you can't open the hatch with any of the options we've discussed so far because it opens way too far. So we have to find a way to open the hatch and have a box on there. Well, my first thought was, let's put some sort of hydraulic arm on here that holds the box up out of the way. Well, two problems with that. Number one, the roof is too wide to fit between the two struts back here. Obviously, there would be two of this black mount. one on either side of the car, but the roof is nearly as wide as the back of the car. You pretty much have to have all the space available to you to get the roof in the hatchback. And even then, it's cumbersome. This thing is not like easy to juggle around. It's very difficult to spin it around and mount it where it needs to be. The hydraulic arm idea, while I think it's cool and nifty and wacky and zany and rad, I don't think it works either. Well, why don't we just remove the box? Now we've got the box on the ground over here. We've got the two struts. Maybe have quick release pins that these struts can be removed using 1 or 2 pins each. So you can just take the anchors off the back of the car, put them on the ground, put the box on the ground. Now you can load the roof, and there you go. That works, but also that box could potentially weigh like 60 pounds. It could be totally packed with stuff. But even just the box itself, one of these came up on Craigslist, and the box alone weighs 41 pounds. That's with nothing in it. A lot of those boxes can hold like over 100 pounds. Not that I'd have 100 pounds and stuff up there, but do you really want to wrestle the box off the roof every single time you want to put the roof in the back? Because you have to do that every time you drive it, which means every morning you got to take the box off. Every time you park the car, it gets to be a whole thing. I hadn't even thought of that, actually. You can't really park the car with the roof off. If you have anything in the car, it's fair game for whoever walks up and wants to take it. So you could either put all your chickens in one egg, chickens in one basket, that's what it is. Put everything in the roof rack. I'm talking electronics, tools, you name it, in the roof box, and, if it gets stolen, you're just done. Or every time you park the car for an extended period, you got to put the roof on. Okay, but what if we maybe make a mechanism where you can slide that box forward and you have some kind of temporary legs that it sits on? Maybe they have a suction cup or something. And you take this off, and now the roof is off. Look, it's literally off in the render. Hey, there you go. Kind of lost the seat and the window and the driver's steering wheel, but you don't need that stuff. Now, to be fair, you have plenty of room to open the hatch now. There's absolutely enough room to do that. The thing is, again, the box is right over the roof. It's almost like it's the roof at this point. All you've done is take the roof off so you can stare at the bottom of a box. But that brings me to, I guess, the final notion here. Why don't we just put the box right over the middle of the car? It's not as cool, it's not as sexy as putting it off the back and making it look like this car has a big wing, like a Lamborghini or an R8 or a skier's car in the Alps. But it does work. It is functional. You could get the roof out from underneath it. You would have 2 suction cups on the front where it mounts to the windshield, and that would be pushing against the windshield, which the windshield is designed for that. Essentially, wind is pushing against it all the time. And you'd only have to drill 2 holes. In, I might add, a removable piece. That top hoop piece, that halo piece, can be replaced, versus the back whole clip of the car back there. You really can't replace that. You basically would just have to fill those holes with fiberglass, and I'm not going to be the one to do that. Come to think of it, I think that halo piece is actually plastic. So yeah, 2 holes, 2 suction cups, and you have full access to the hatch. You have the full ability to take the roof off. The only question at this point is, what will it do to the airflow? Will it cause a bunch of buffeting? James May in the house. Will there be a deafening noise? I don't know. No one's ever done this. I mean, no one has ever done this before. So it's kind of a guessing game. It's don't know till you try. Now, personally, this is kind of growing on me aesthetically. I'm not sold. I still think it looks cooler to have something like this, where it's off the back. You get this neat little metal lattice work back here. It looks cool. It looks custom. But also, the whole car is not customized. I don't have custom wheels. I'm not lowered. I don't have exhaust. So it would be kind of the only thing. But it's just not practical to take the box off and the struts off every single day. So honestly, well, there you go. So honestly, I'm starting to lean toward this. So let's review. What have we learned here? Well, we've learned, I think, what everyone already knew, which is that the C4 Corvette is extremely impractical. We want to take the roof off because it's too hot to be inside the car on anything but a winter day, but you can't do that if you want to travel, because the entire hatch and the passenger seat are taken up with your stuff. We can't put a roof rack over the hatch without drilling multiple holes in the fiberglass, and my Corvette doesn't have any fiberglass damage at all, so I'm reluctant to do that. Also, putting a box over the roof is problematic because the windshield, while it is designed to hold the wind, it's not designed to hold the weight. And more specifically, the windshield itself isn't designed to hold anything. It's the frame that holds all the weight, especially in the event of a rollover, which, again, you really don't want to do in this car. Then there's the problem of height. See, the higher the box gets over the roof, the more wind resistance there's going to be, the more buffeting, the more instability, the more the wind is going to push the back of the car into the ground, not to mention all the weight of the box itself and all the things that are in it. By the end of the day, you would have less ground clearance than you already have, and that would further limit where you could go, how it handles, and the life of your tires and things like that. So personally, I think there is one pretty good solution. It was actually suggested by my dad. He said, why don't you drill 4 holes, okay? You kind of have to. Drill 2 in the top up here, 2 in the bottom back here, make a mount system with electro-hydraulic assist, something that would raise the box up so we could get into the hatchback. It would take it up away from the roof so you could get the roof off, and then at the push of a button, it would hunker everything down over the roof as closely as possible. That way you would minimize drag and wind resistance, and airflow would go right over the top of it. Of course, in doing that, you would spend more money than I spent on this entire car, including everything I fixed, but it might be worth it. If you've made it this far in this little conversation of how impractical a C4 Corvette really is, please leave a comment. I would love to talk with you guys about how exactly you could go about this. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe you have some suggestions. I'd love to have real conversations with you guys about this because I am open to doing it. I actually want to do it. I think it would look really cool. I just don't know that it's possible realistically without dumping a bunch of money into it or cutting up the car to the point where it's just not the same anymore. And if you made it this far, I might as well tell you that this channel is called Nowhere to Be because one of these cars will eventually be going all around the country, staying socially distant, but going to car events, going to campsites, national parks, and just generally spreading the love of old cars. It may be this, it may be something else. Honestly, I think it'd be a lot easier to do it in a hatchback like my Mark I Fiesta or my Mark I Rabbit, but those things are not quite as road ready as this, and it's already September. If you want to see how that turns out, feel free to subscribe, hit like if you like the conversation we've had today, leave a comment and tell me how I might be able to do this, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, here we've got the car open. I have with me a digital thermometer. The ground on a 90-degree day in Missouri is about 117. Got a little laser, and we're going to aim it inside the Corvette. Now let's start with the cloth seats. Keep in mind these are cloth seats, not leather. 172 on the seat. What about that armrest? That's underneath the roof. 151. That wood trim there, 153. The steering wheel, 160. You have to grab that to drive the car, safely anyway. And the dash, in here on this dash cover, 196. That should be enough to fry an egg. To put that in perspective, the outside of the car is 167. Like the paint, the black paint is 167. It's nowhere near as hot as the inside, and it's in the direct sunlight. All that thing does is magnify heat. It's incredible.